Good morning, all. I will be the first to admit this is the workshop meeting, and I was totally discombobulated when I walked in and there's no tables sitting there like normal. I think we're huge creatures of habit, but it is so good to see all of you, and I hope your summer's going well. I was telling several of you that it seems like it's just going so fast that, next week is July, but here we go. If you would stand with me, please, for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Treasure Hunter Pledge. As an adult and a treasure hunter, I am committed to search for all the talents, skills, and intelligence that exist in all children and youth. I believe all children are capable of success, no exceptions. Thank you. You may be seated. Mr. Superintendent, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning. I know we've got one board member that's not going to be here. Mr. Ingersoll is on a little vacation. Not sure about Mrs. Richardson, but Mr. Ingersoll and Mrs. Richardson were at the end of the year principal summit. So they have, I did let them know that this presentation is going to be very similar to that. However, we did add a couple of surprises. Well, I can't do the same thing twice. So we do have a couple of minor nuances for also the principals that were there. We did add a few things. But I wanted to thank the school board. This is kind of the end of the year where we reflect on the year. We plan for next year. We also look at the goals that the superintendent sets with the approval of the board and whether we achieve those goals. And we're going to make some predictions today. Now, our predictions have been very, very accurate. But before I go there, I want to remind the board that these are only predictions. So whenever we say we're predicting something, that doesn't mean it's actually going to happen, but we expect it to happen. We're pretty good at math, so we do anticipate that our predictions will come true. So just wanted to let you know that before I get started. So I think we start with this, and that's the last line in the Treasure Hunter's Pledge. I believe all children are capable of success, no exceptions. And I've told our board members, when I first arrived here in 2015, I had never heard of the Treasure Hunter's Pledge. And we were a Kids at Hope district, and this was fundamental to what the district was. I believe all children are capable of success, no exceptions. And that's the most important line to me of the Treasure Hunter's Pledge. And the question is, and that I really had to ask as a system, and I was coming in as the deputy superintendent with oversight of the schools, is does everybody in the system believe that? And I didn't really feel like we did because, our actions were very different. Your belief system has to be aligned with your actions. And I don't necessarily believe that they always were. I think the intent was there, but I think we've come a long way. As you'll see, as a district, we've come a long way. For those of you who've been on the board, you've seen how far we've come. For those of you who are newer on the board, I think we've come a long way even in the last 4 years. And I'm going to share that too. The last 10 years with Mr. Gent, I give Mr. Gent a lot of credit for building the foundation, and the 4 years since I've been superintendent, which I cannot believe I'm saying that. This is my 4th year. So it all starts with the board. The school board sets the tone, and I cannot be more grateful and thankful for board members. You are all very different. You come from different backgrounds, different life experiences, and you're shaped by your life experience. You're shaped even by your childhood and how your school experience was, and also as an adult, how your children's school experience was. And I was shaped as a young person by my experiences at school, and I know I've shared this with the board members. My life was changed by a teacher. Mr. Woolwine changed my life, and because of a science teacher I had in high school, he changed the trajectory of my life, and because of him, I became a teacher. And that teacher path led me to become an assistant principal, a principal, and then a district administrator, and then a superintendent. And I'm coming up on my 35th year of public education, and the landscape has completely changed. in the 35 years. And as a former science teacher, I always say the foundation of evolution is adapt or perish. And we find ourselves in a situation now where there's a tremendous amount of competition. And I say that because competition's a good thing. You know, we can't be the best we can be if there's no competition, if we're the only game in town. So I'm going to talk about a few of those things today, but I think the school board sets the tone, and I'm grateful to each of you because of your life experiences and the things you share with me about your priorities, and I try to integrate your priorities the best I can because you're 5 different people, and you come at things 5 very different ways, and I have to try to integrate those things into a singular vision. And I hope at the end of today you're going to be as proud of what we've done together as I am, because I'm tremendously proud. So it starts also with our senior leadership team. And over the last 10 years, I've been so blessed to really integrate the best of what we have here in St. Lucie Public Schools and also attract the best and brightest from other places, because we have to have different people and different ideas to bring into our system. And these are the people that I surround myself, and I think you are only the best that you can be if you've got people in your system that disagree with you and that you point out things, or they feel comfortable to point out things that may be different from what I think. And I encourage that. We have a very open and honest cabinet, and if they disagree, I want to know those things. And they are free to share things that are very opposed to my belief system, but that makes us healthy. I also understand how important events are. I hope you were as proud of our graduation event as I was. We had over 42,000 people attend our graduation ceremony, and I can't thank our team enough. Our maintenance staff, Mr. O'Leary and his team, Matt and his team, Matt Weber, who's here, Lydia Martin and her team, our communication staff. All these people have to come together and work to put on a first-class production. And I hope that when those kids crossed that stage, they were proud, because I truly believe it looked fantastic and it was a great experience for those students. We had the highest graduation rate. We continue. I mean, we can't ascend a whole lot higher, quite frankly, but a 94-95% graduation rate is the top 10 in the state, and we continue to do outstanding things with our seniors. So thank you for all attending those graduation ceremonies, because it does send a message to our students. I want to go back to cabinet, because every year, a couple of times a year, we do surveys. And we do surveys of our parents, we do surveys of our teachers, we do surveys of our support staffs. But really, as a district office, we are here to serve our principals. And it's, we're providing a service to them. And I wanted to share our customer service mentality. Now, this is a Riker scale. You're rated on a scale of 1 to 5, and it is anonymous. And it's a reflection of these people and their leadership. So just in the last few years, I want to take a look. I could shout out everybody, because when you're at about a 4.7 average, there's only a couple of people that are there giving you 4s, and even 4 is above expectation. Almost everybody's rating their service from our staff as 5. Our principals are our priority. If you don't have happy principals and supported principals, you can't be successful as a system. And I'd like to also point out a couple of things. Rod Natta, stand up, Rod, where are you? Okay, look at Rod. Rod does Title I programs, 4.84. He's almost the highest, literally the highest, I think, was a 4.9. He was almost the highest, but just imagine Rod coming to you, and we took a $7 million cut in federal programs, and he came to the principals and said, you're taking a huge cut, but they still love him. So Rod, congratulations. Well done. But also elementary curriculum was rated the highest, 4.93. Heather Belitho has done an amazing job. Just 5 or 6 years ago, that was one of our lowest rated. And also we've seen huge improvements in our elementary production with regards to our core curriculum. and I give Heather a lot of credit, and her door is always open. But tremendously proud. I'd be remiss if I did not mention the best chief of communications in the state of Florida, Miss Lydia Martin, because what a great job she does of messaging for us. And also, all of our events look fantastic, and that's a tribute to Lydia. But most important people in our system, and I'm going to say everybody's important, first of all, but you will sink or swim with your principals. That is my philosophy. You have to have outstanding principals. And the success of our district is single-handedly the result of outstanding leadership from our principals in our school centers, because they are the ones that are on the front lines. They're there every day, and they're implementing the things that are necessary to be successful in our schools. And I say that because LaTanya Green is about to open up Tradition Lakes. LaTanya was Principal of the Year just a few years ago, and not just that, she led Parkway to an A rating, and I know that Tradition Lakes, they're going to be bursting at the seams. LaTanya, could you please stand up? Where's LaTanya back there? LaTanya, congratulations. LaTanya has filled out her administrative team, and we're going to be ready to go in August when the students arrive. We're very excited, and I want to thank LaTanya. But the principals are so critically important. And the Wallace Foundation, this is really important. The research suggests, first of all, the number one indicator of a student's success is the teacher. You've got to have a quality teacher. That's the number one thing. But the global impact of the principal cannot be understated. You know, you can't have, you could have it, but it's hard to have an outstanding teacher, a rock star in every classroom. But if you have a rock star principal, okay, they can brighten up that car with a shine. And actually, with an outstanding principal, you can increase the performance of a school by 25%. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. That's why the leadership of the principal is so critically important, because they are larger in scope. A teacher just impacts 18, 22, 25 students. A principal impacts 1,000 students. So when you see a transformational principal come in and the school take off, like we saw with Parkway, not just under LaTanya, we saw that with Dr. Jackson coming into C.A. Moore. We saw it with Dave Alfonso coming in at Westwood. When you see a transformational principal come in, it makes an impact. And make no mistake, principals are the number one thing that we've got to make sure we get those things right. We cannot have average principals in our schools. We have to have outstanding principals in our schools. So the principal sets the tone. The staff embraces the culture. And when I say this a lot to our principals, culture can't come from below. That has to be established at the top. You have to establish a standard and an expectation. And I know the board has expectations. And the standard here at the district starts with me, the superintendent. You hire me to set the tone. But at the school level, if that's not happening, you can't have a successful school. The principal has to set the culture. The staff embraces the culture. The students notice the culture. I use an example, of course, the principal of the school is not here. But at Westgate, listen to Isabella talk about the culture of her school.
Well, if we're talking about like this school in general, I really love how the teachers try to help us to the best of our abilities. Like if we don't understand something in a certain topic, they'll help us with it. It doesn't even have to be extra work. They can work with us separately, and they help us understand that topic more, and I really love that. And I also love how everybody feels welcome at this school. Like there are signs everywhere that's like, oh, welcome to Westgate, home of the Mustangs, and I really do love that. And I've been here since kindergarten, so it's just like I've always felt welcome.
And that's important. One of the things as a principal that I had an expectation of is during transitions, every teacher was at their door. Every teacher greeted their students when they walked in. You know, we even had greeters whenever students got off the buses. You know, don't you want to see people smiling and welcoming you in the morning when you get off the buses? Those things are important because you set the tone for the day. Also, if a kid's coming off the bus and they're angry, they're upset about something, you can have somebody intervene right away and that kid's not taking it to the classroom. Those things are important. It's the nuance of things that are important, and that's something that we try to work with our principals to make sure those things are happening in our schools, and they're happening at Westgate. You just saw Isabella say she feels welcome. She's been there since kindergarten, and now she's in 8th grade. So we want to start 25-26 the way we started last year with our goals. How did we do? Well, foreshadowing, okay? You might remember last year the school district earned its first A rating ever. So are we going to see a repeat? By the way, full disclosure, this is a slide that I stole from Dr. Summer for one of his presentations. So I want to give Dr. Summer a little bit of credit. So we had 4 goals last year. One was really sustaining, and not just sustaining, but accelerating our improvement in the core. Because I want to tell the board, we have always lagged below the state in every single core category: reading, math, social studies, science. In fact, we've never exceeded the state ever in a single grade in reading, math, science, or social studies. We've always lagged significantly behind. So in order to be a successful and a sustained A school district, we need to make sure that our proficiency is sustainably excellent and we continue to move forward at a faster rate than the state. Second is classrooms to careers. We need to make sure that our kids are workforce ready, and we've been very aggressive with working with our local business leaders to make sure that kids, when they graduate, if they're not college bound, then they can enter the local workforce. That's been a priority, and we started classrooms to careers last year, and that is going to continue forward even better than ever. Next is reinvesting in the green zone. We know we've built schools in tradition, we built legacy, we're opening Tradition Lakes, but in our oldest communities, we still have to have a commitment of renewal. So we rebuilt Westwood. We're building a new K-8. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And then also not just supporting the mental health of our children. We've got a lot of supports in place for mental health of children. We also need to support the mental health of the adults in our system, and that's something we really focused on this year. There are a lot of things in our insurance that, with our providers, that provide mental health supports that a lot of our employees are not aware of. So we really went out this year to try to educate our employees on what's available to them to make sure that they're cared for as well. So I want to start with the goal, that's goal 2. I always save the best for last. Goal 2 is classrooms to careers. We had our first 8th grade experience this year, and I want to thank our board members. What a great time I think you had. Many of you came to that. We had 750 students, 31 businesses, and it was here at the district office, and it was a wonderful event. First time we've ever had it, and we're going to have it bigger and better this coming year. Our high school career fair had about the same number of students that participated, 83 businesses. We had a number of students that got hired on the spot. And this year we've got 61 students and 51 businesses that are participating in our summer student internships. I believe one of our board members may have an intern. Ms. Aronson with the chamber has an intern, or that hopefully they're doing well. Perfect. Okay, that's good. I'm glad. We didn't talk about this before, so I'm glad it's going okay. But just wanted to share with the board a quick overview of classrooms to careers, because we really launched that. We're really proud of our launch, and here it is.
Hi, I'm Dr. Lanisha Robinson here with St. Lucie Public Schools. The 8th grade experience, where we have 760 8th grade students from St. Lucie Public Schools attending. In addition to that, we have 30 businesses here from industry. They are representing skilled trades, healthcare, they're representing public safety, public service. So there is opportunities for all students to help them align to what their goals are for the future. This event was a joint partnership with everyone from all over St. Lucie Public Schools. But not only that, but the Office of Teaching and Learning. We couldn't have done this event without each and every last one of them.
So the exciting thing about the 8th grade experience is really about industries getting our kids excited prior to starting high school. So if they're interested in a career or an industry, then that sets their pathway potentially in high school where they can take classes that support that career and support other experiences where they can get in front of those employers. So it's very exciting that our businesses got so involved and engaged. We had so much participation with our local business, and we're going to continue to expand and make that even bigger and better, because we also want to provide our middle school students with more exposure to what careers are out there. So I'm going to kindly check that box because I do think that was a success. I want to go next to goal 3, which is the rejuvenation of Fort Pierce. We opened Westwood. Dave Alfonso, is he here today? David, stand up. Give Dave a hand, please. Mr. Alfonso opened up Westwood on time, on schedule, on budget, and I've never in my experience have I seen a high school close the doors on an old campus in December and then get all these people to come in for free and move all this stuff in for January 4th or 5th. And just a masterful job, and I can't tell you how proud the students were when they walked in. Some of you were there on the first day. When the students came in, I was there on the first day, and the students were just so excited, and I think there's still excitement, Dave, with the school and how happy that staff is. And it does make a difference whenever you make a commitment to a community that we care about you and we're going to prioritize you regardless of your zip code. We're going to provide the best possible educational opportunity. And guess what? It's like I'm going to sell you something, but wait, there's more. We have our new K-8 that's going to break ground on July 28th. And that's incredibly exciting because it gives us an opportunity for those kids that are feeding into Fort Pierce Westwood to provide a new school experience. And it's not like, we have to reimagine what our school experience looks like. And we can't, we're not in an age where we can just, this elementary school's old. We're going to rebuild an elementary. It's like, Oprah, you get a car, and you get a car, and you get a car. We have to make savvy and smart financial decisions moving forward as a district and be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And with the property sales of Lawnwood, St. Lucie Elementary, and Dale Cassens, along with another property sale that the board just made, we're going to be very, very close to building this K-8 cost neutral, and it will open on time, on budget, on schedule, August of 2028. So we're very, very excited about the opportunities that are going to be afforded to our students, and also continue to make St. Lucie Public Schools the #1 destination for students. Because like I said, we're not the only game in town, and we're not the only, now students and parents have so many options that we want to make sure that our school experience is the #1 option for families in St. Lucie, regardless of where you live. So I'm going to, we got a video. And this is a wonderful opportunity for our students, and actually the school, not just that, our principal for the school will be hired this time next year. So they'll be in place a year before the school opens. So I do think everything we promised the community so far, we've followed our word, we've checked that box. So I'm going to check that box. The next goal is goal 4, and that's in enhancing the mental health support. And we really focus this on our teachers, staffs, bus drivers, food service, you name it. In fact, almost every correspondence I sent as the superintendent in my messages, if you read it closely, you'll see that it indicated things about mental health supports, links to mental health. And as also part of our principal training, principals were pushing this information out in the school centers as well. And I know this was a lot behind the scenes, but it actually had a significant difference. The annualized utilization rate for 2026 was 5% higher than the same period last year. So we've done a good job of getting the message out. 5% is pretty significant in the healthcare industry. So they have been accessing our services, and that's a good thing. We're going to continue to promote those things. There's a lot of services that are provided through our healthcare that if you take our insurance, that our employees are still not aware of. So we're going to continue, although it's not going to be a goal next year. Just because it's not a goal doesn't mean we're not going to continue to do it. So it's just like attendance. We know attendance is important. We're going to continue to crush attendance and do the things we need to do behind the scenes because it is important. So we're going to check that box, and now we're going to get to goal 1, because this is what we're really about, is teaching and learning. It's the most important thing we do. I'm not going to say everything else is window dressing, but if you're not teaching and learning, then you're not doing your job as a school system. That's what parents send their kids to school for, is to get an education. All right, so that's fundamentally where my evaluation comes in with regards to how are we performing. So let's start with reading. I would be remiss if I didn't bring a young lady in that talked a little bit about reading and a passion for reading, because that's what we're about, is when kids get to school, we want to make sure they have a love for reading.
What I like about reading is that you can build a story in your mind and that you can imagine what's going to happen. That's personally my favorite part of a story, seeing what the characters will do next and how they build relationships together.
I will tell you, it's very hard whenever I do these videos, because the kids, you never know what they're going to say. So there's like 10 or 11 that are fantastic, and you always just have to pick one. So I can tell you, we had a lot of kids that really love reading, but we try to keep it tight and keep it short. So I'm not doing a lot of animations, but what you're going to see here is a lot of checked boxes. And what are the checked boxes in blue? That means we exceeded the state in improvement. And across the board, St. Lucie Public Schools pretty much exceeded the state in performance in reading when it comes to proficiency. So we're increasing our proficiency rates. And I'm going to tie this in a bow in just a few minutes. But we're increasing our proficiency rates at a much faster rate than the state is. I'd also like to add, last year, if you remember, our COVID crew was in 5th grade last year. This year, they're in 6th grade. So across the board, even those kids at the state moved at a slower rate than the rest of the grade levels. But that's the group we're still working hard to bring back up. They were in kindergarten when COVID hit. If you remember, they missed the last month, 6 weeks or 9 weeks of school. And then many of those kids were home the very next year in 1st grade. So a great job in reading, tremendous. Some of the numbers are almost outlandish. In 5th grade and in 7th grade, when you've got 10 and 9%, that is unbelievable. I mean, even 5% is fantastic. But some of the numbers that is a real tribute to our teachers and our principals and our schools with how fast they were moving our kids. So great job in reading. This is what I wanted to point out, and we're going to continue to point this out as we see it. For the first time ever, we actually have a grade band in reading that has exceeded the state in proficiency. That's never happened before. We've never exceeded the state in anywhere, in any grade, in math, science, social studies, or math, reading, science, social studies. There it's for. We've never done that with any grade band. So 7th grade reading, actually, we exceeded the state in proficiency. We're at 63%. They're at 62%. What you're going to see, I'm going to make a bold prediction, as we get into next year, we're going to start taking more and more of these over the state. as we continue our ascent. We're moving at a much faster rate. You're going to see that. We have systems in place. Dr. Summer coined it, sustained excellence, is because of the systems and the things we have in place now, we can start seeing achievement year after year after year of sustained excellence, and you're going to start seeing more and more grade levels where we're exceeding the state. Math. Math, we've got a young lady who loves math.
I like multiplication. I like solving math problems, so it just makes me feel good inside. Sometimes it might be a little hard, but I try to solve it.
You know, that's what you want. You want your teachers to teach kids resiliency, and even if they can't figure something out, if it gets hard, you don't want to teach a kid, well, when it gets hard, quit. When it gets hard, I'm going to work it out. And that young lady, she's figured that out. So I'd like to bring to the board's attention, this is what I almost call math the first where we see some normalization, where as you get into a test year after year, you start seeing a point where things get more sporadic year after year, and math is one of those. We had 3 grade bands where we're significantly higher than the state, 5th, algebra and geometry. Math is also where we accelerate a lot of kids. So in 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade math, a lot of our proficient kids are taking accelerated math. They might be taking algebra and geometry early, but they're also taking tests that are a grade above theirs. So there's just some variables here that I don't want to get into minutia, but impact our math scores. But what I can say is these are really good outcomes. We matched 3rd grade. 5th grade, we absolutely crushed it. But I will say as a system, algebra and geometry have been a problem for us, particularly at the high school level, and we have started step 1 in solving that. So we had some of our high schools really crushed it and really did a wonderful job, and we're going to bring all of our high schools along, and I see next year as being a transformational year to take us to the next level. But had a great year in math. Not all the grade bands are as performed where I wanted them to be, but we just see opportunity. I will say we get into our district ranking, and math is the difference between us being a top 20 district and a top 10 district. So it's really the next nut for us to crack, but we're moving there. But once again, we've got a grade band where we're exceeding the state significantly. Where in 8th grade math, we're at 65%, and the state is at 61%. Science, great story in science. This is absolutely my favorite video.
Rocks. I like rocks. There's 3 different types of rocks: igneous, metamorphic, and sedimentary.
There you go. I like rocks. I taught rocks in science. Miss Martin, did you teach rocks? Yes. Of course we did. We were middle school science teachers. But he can, to me, that's just funny. Kid can tell you the different kinds of rocks, and that is fun. That's fun stuff. But science, we got a great story. 5th and 8th grade, we exceeded the state, and in biology, we were almost to the state, but it's a great story. And once again, 8th grade, we exceeded the state in performance. Once again, we've had a first in reading, we've got a first in math, we've got a first in science. And I'm just going to share with the board, there's only a first time, you only get a first time one time. And why I wanted to share this is I'm going to go back, when we're in next year, I'm going to go back to last year, because you're going to see a lot more yellow boxes. Because as we continue moving in this direction, we're going to have more success. I'm very confident of that because of the things we have in place and because of the people behind me. Because these principles are marvelous. I cannot say enough how good they are. Social studies, once again, I want you to reflect on civics and the different different branches of government. And I hope you remember, because she's going to remind you.
I'm going to go into civics. I don't know if you remember this, but Articles of Confederation, there was only one branch, which was the legislative branch, so they couldn't do a lot for laws. Well, now, because of many influential people, like the Enlightenment thinkers, we have those three branches, and those branches are the base of our government today.
You all remember that. The enlightened thinkers, of course, So this is great because we've got a yellow box because that's civics. So we now have a first in every single core subject area where we're exceeding the state. And Isabella is a perfect example of the outstanding instruction that is happening in our civics classes. And 78% of our students in 7th grade were proficient. That's unbelievable, and that's a 9% increase from last year. So that just shows you the strength of our civics instruction. And even U.S. history was up by double what the state is. We were up 6%, and we're only 1% behind the state right now in U.S. history. So I always like to share the scorecard because the accumulation of this is really important. And I knew this as a principal. If I took a scorecard and I looked at what we look like plus or minus the state, I could tell you whether or not we're going to have a good year, okay, whenever the school grades come out. We're a lot more savvy now than we were then. But this is a comparison of our growth to the state. So reading, we were plus 43 across the board. The state was plus 31. An almost 3-2 margin. We are moving our students into proficiency and moving up faster at a faster rate than the state. Math, it's flat. They went up about 16 points. We went up about 16 points. So pretty flat in math. But here we go in science. Once again, we're moving at a faster rate, plus 13 for us, plus 11 for the state. And then in social studies, significant, almost a 2-to-1. We're up by 15. The state is up by 8. So whenever we compare us with the state, on our big board, the state is up by 66 across all subjects, across all grades. The St. Lucie Public Schools is plus 87. We had a fantastic year. And not just that, that will translate into us having a better year. So if the state is usually the average of how people do, then we're going to do a third better than everybody else. And that's significant when it comes to how we perform relative to other districts. So we were plus 87, they were plus 66, put a gold star there. But I also wanted to share over 2 years, because last year we earned our first A. This year we almost had a comparable year. The state was plus 142 over the last couple of years. We were plus 207. So we've done significantly better. And I do think that we're not where we can be. I always say you reach a certain point where it's hard to get higher, but we're not there yet. I've had many, many conversations with staff about where I think we can get better and what we're going to focus on in order to do that. And those are not easy fixes, but they're fixes we can make as we continue our ascent to be the best district in the state of Florida. So, projected differences in proficiency. So over the last 3 years in reading alone, we've been up plus 14. That is incredible. It's almost plus 5% every year. In math, it's been even better than that. Plus 15, science, plus 12, and social studies, plus 14. Now, to compare that, I want, once again, I like to do side-by-sides. This is us, and this is us compared to the state. You can see we're moving students into proficiency, once again, at a much faster rate over the last 2 years, over the last 4 years than the state. And where I'm going with this is I mentioned earlier that we've never been close to the state in proficiency. Where we've always done a great job is learning gains And, we've had a lot of low-level students, and we move those students up. But a lot of times we move them up and not into proficiency until they get into late middle school and high school when they have to graduate. But we're moving them a lot sooner, especially in elementary school. So this is our reading proficiency grades 3 through 10 in the different core subjects. This is the last 4 years. And I want you to see the difference between us and the state. So my first year as superintendent, we were -5, -5, -4, -2. You can see that gap closing to where across all grades, we're 2% off from the state in proficiency. Math, we started 4 years ago, 10% from the state. Now we're at 5%. Science, we started when I was superintendent, 3%, we're now flat. We're exactly where the state is in science. And then the same thing in social studies. 4 years ago, we were 5% off the state. Now we're even with the state in social studies. Now I'm going to make a bold prediction. Next year, we're going to be flat with reading. We're going to be right at the state average. Math, we're going to close that gap to about 2%. And then I believe in science and social studies, we may actually exceed the state in proficiency because we're going to continue to move our students faster than the state. Now, we added a column on the far right. This is combining all the core. So if we combine all core content, we started 4 years ago at 7% gap, 6% gap, 4% gap, and 2% gap. The one area that has the largest gap between us and the state is math. That is going to be a big area of emphasis for us because I'm going to tell you well, I know you like the nerd stuff, so I'm going to give you the nerd stuff. Some of our elementary teachers struggle with content knowledge. They're really good at teaching reading, but it's really hard to teach fractions. They need professional development and those kind of things. We have so many in middle school, we have so many students now taking algebra and geometry that some of those students struggle with learning gains because they're already level 5s, they can't go any higher. But they have to score level 5 for us to get credit on that, not credit for passing, but credit to get a learning gain. But really our biggest gap is the elementary, moving those students into proficiency and closing that gap. I will say we had a successful year in the core. We can't deny that, can't argue it. As long as we're moving faster than the state, we can't not check that box in my opinion. Of course, you're the board, so you're the ultimate judge. But I do believe that we've checked all of our boxes and we continue to move students in the right direction in all core areas. So I'm going to get into some predictions in just a minute, but before, the state raised the bar when it comes to school grades and district grades. So I want the board to be aware of that. And what did that look like? It's called an accelerator clause. So the state has a law that the more schools, accelerator. Thank you. Dr. Wild's being so polite. I just need my earpiece so she can feed it to me. It's not called an accelerator clause. It's called an escalator clause. So whenever so many schools, school districts, when 75% of them become an A or a B, they raise the bar by like 5%. So it makes it harder to be an A, B, C, D, or F. So they had an escalator clause that went into effect because too many schools in K-8s, high schools, were making A's or B's. So they raised the bar. What did that mean? Well, it stinks if really for us to earn an A or a B, the number of points needed to get to an A or a B raised, especially to be a B, pretty substantially. So you had schools that were A-rated schools or B-rated schools. The bar got raised, so they actually, if this rule would have been applied, they would have been a lower grade. So here are examples. St. Lucie West K-8 was an A, but under the new rules, they would be a B. The same thing with Oak Hammock, Fort Pierce, Westwood, and Northport. Those schools were B rated, and under the escalator clause, they need 60% of the points to maintain their B, and you can see they earned 59, 58, and 57, so they would have earned a C. So that's tough. You know, you had a big improvement from the previous year, and you've got to take another giant leap in order to jump over that hurdle. In fact, our school district earned 65% of the points. So we would have been okay with where we performed, so we would have still earned an A rating. But we have to keep that in mind because they raised the bar to be an A. So I want to share with you a couple things. First of all, this is a public meeting. These are predictions. They're predictions. And I also want to say, too, the principals work really, really hard. And there are certain scores that have not yet come out yet. So many of our students are special needs students, and they take the Florida Alternative Assessment. Those scores have not been released. Our students tend to do very, very well. So, you know, we're very conservative in our estimates. So we may have some schools that actually are right there and may jump over that hoop, and I'm going to recognize those schools that are super, super close, but they're not there yet. So these are predicted schools, grades for elementary schools. You can see that a lot of our schools maintain their A's. You know, Fair Lawn maintained their A, Morningside, Parkway. But I want to shout out a couple of schools. In FK Suite, Makita Brome, C to a B, fantastic job. Mariposa, C to a B. And then River's Edge, Mr. Bickley, B to an A. And then we've got Savannah Ridge, Ebony Jarrett, C to a B. St. Lucie, Kathy Bache, C to a B. And then Weatherby, where's Rick Secker? Stand up, Heather. Now, Weatherby's only a few years removed from a D-rated school. I can't tell you what a heavy lift that is. And for Heather to go in from Fair Lawn and transform that school from a C to an A is truly monumental. And there is no, I just want to let you know, I mean, my first principalship was at Verde Elementary School in Boca Raton. And I didn't need to show up at that school one day that year, and that school has still been an A. I woke up an A every day. I drove to work with a smile on my face. My biggest job was greeting the kids at parent drop-off because it was an affluent community, and most of the kids had two parents, and there was a lot of money in the community, a lot of support. If I needed something, the PTA would buy it. We don't have that here. Every school is a heavy lift. So I want to be fair because regardless of what school you're in, if you improved it, congratulations, and I commend you. So that's a fantastic job. I also wanted to throw out Floresta. You'll see Floresta, you need 54% of the points to be a B, and Floresta is super, super duper close. So they are so close. John Keeler is doing a rain dance prayer to the, you know, the PM3 gods, and maybe that once the scores come out, he'll get it, but it's really close. Middle schools, same thing. We've got a couple of shout-outs. Southport, Bree is no longer at Southport. She's at Northport, so we moved her south to north, but earned another A. Congratulations, Bree. And then Henry, congratulations, Southern Oaks, C to a B. Where's Henry? Great job, Henry. Nice job. But I also want to shout out, and they're so close, Miss Bobo, they need 65 points, 65% of the points to earn an A. They are close, but Miss Bobo has done an amazing job, and they're... Although hope is not a strategy, whenever grades come out, they're close enough that a point here, a point there, and they could potentially pull off an A rating. So that would be fantastic, and Ms. Bobo has brought that school so far in such a short time. So I want to get into the K-8s, and this is where the schools took the biggest hit with the escalator because some of these schools had a heavy lift, but we had so many successes here. Allapattah Flats, Anna, great year. In fact, 71% of the points, I mean, they literally crushed it. Allapattah Flats is really a destination school, and what an amazing job. I remember, if you were on the board, a few of you were, when we were housed at Allapattah, and I remember when we had our first bike rider, and it was like, oh, wow, there's a kid who rides a bike to school. But Cast, Jane, stand up, Jane, great job, A rating. Dr. Harrington maintaining the role at Lincoln Park. And then Mosaic, great job, Gene Zimba, wonderful. Palm Point, by the way, may be the highest, one of the highest performing schools across the Treasure Coast and South Florida. I'm so interested to see the percentage of points when we compare that combination school. That is just amazing. And Markowitz has done. Markowitz, where are you? Stand up. Well, just remember I gave her a shout out. Some of the principals are on vacation. But I wanted to mention it's really hard to come into a high performing school and take it to new heights. You know, Mr. Gent and I talked about this, and it was like you never want to follow Bear Bryant as a football coach. You know, you want to follow the guy that followed Bear Bryant. So it's always difficult whenever you take over a high-performing situation and then take it to new heights. So Markowitz has just done an amazing job. I'm so pleased with that. And then Keith Davis continues the legend at Sam Gaines. Keith, stand up. Just, another, and I want the board to really reflect on what is the green zone and in Fort Pierce, and what was in just a minute, because we've got destination schools. We've got Weatherby, when I got here, was a D-rated school. Sam Gaines was an F-rated school. Like, the transformation of our schools has just been remarkable, and it's a tribute to our principals. Oh, and I'm not going to leave out Manatee K-8 is so close to earning an A rating. So Carrie, is Carrie here? Carrie, stand up. So Carrie, so close, so close, so close. But whenever I say it's within the margin of error, I always say it's within the margin of hope. So, we're very, very close. Now the high schools, and once again, this is a big, big story. Port St. Lucie High School is going to earn its first A rating. Nicole, Felice here? All right. Who's Nicole's executive director? Daryl, go ahead and stand up and take credit. There you go. Yeah. Yes, they're going through an audit. She probably should be there, okay? They're going through an audit. But Port St. Lucie High School is going to earn its first A rating. And we also have two schools. Remember, Westwood was impacted by the escalator. But they improved, but they just may not have improved enough. But they are so close, they're too close to call. And then Treasure Coast High School, they have a lot of FAA scores, so they may actually earn an A rating. So they're so close, but we're being very conservative with our estimates. So there's a possibility that a few of the blue stars that I share with the board may actually earn a higher letter grade. So we're really excited for those schools. So first A ever, Port St. Lucie High School. First A since 2008, Cast. First A since 2010, Weatherby. Southern Oaks since 2019, first B. And then St. Lucie Elementary, the first B since 2012. So these are truly remarkable, remarkable accomplishments. And I wanted to share this with perspective. Some of our board members are newer. Some of our board members have been on the board for a long time. But either way, you should be proud. Because, when we look in perspective over the last 10 years of where we've been and where we are, it's a different world. It's two different stories. So, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit because what the public doesn't understand also is our charter schools also count for our district grade. So we are performing significantly better than many of our charter schools. So actually the charter schools count for our district grade. So it is something we have to take into consideration whenever we calculate our district grade, that some of the charter performance actually brings our district grade down. So those are things, we could have the best year ever, but if the charter schools are not having a good year, then as a district, we get graded. Those students get looped into our whole, our big pot. So that's how the state does it. They actually include public schools and they include charter schools, because charter schools are public schools, but they're just not governed by us. So we do provide professional development that some of the charters take advantage of, but that is an area that we always have to consider whenever we're looking at our district grade, because that has an impact. So let's just take a look at the schools that we govern. And over the last 10 years, it's really two different stories. So we've gone from 11 A and B rated schools to 32, which is just absolutely remarkable. We've tripled. We've tripled the number of schools that are A and B ranked. And not just that, if we look at our C's, D's, and F's, and I hate to even lump in C's with D's and F's, but to get an idea, I mean, we had 9 D and F schools 10 years ago. We don't have any now. In fact, we have half as many C schools as we had D and F schools, just for perspective. But we had 26 C, D, or F schools, and now we only have 5. And that's not to say our C-rated schools are not performing well. Our C-rated schools have a tremendous amount of challenges. And our goal is to make sure all of our schools are A-rated. And we're going to continue our ascent into next year. But I just wanted the board to be aware of where we were versus where we are. It's two different worlds. And also, I want to be honest, two different set of expectations, because I don't believe we rest on our laurels. You know, we can get better, and we will get better. That is the expectation. It's very clear to my staff. It's also clear to our principals. You know, we're in a competitive market, and the marketplace will determine where kids go. So we have to be better than we are. We have not reached our ascension, let's put it that way. We still have a place to go. But even in the time I've been superintendent, we've gone from 18 to 32 A and B schools, almost double the number of A and B schools. And we had 19 C and D schools, and now we have 5. So in the 4 years since I've been superintendent, you know, we've really taken off in a very confined period of time. And that, you know, there's a little bit of serendipity to that, a little bit of fortune and good luck. And the reason I say that is because taking over right after COVID as a superintendent is almost a little bit of low-hanging fruit, because we can move and accelerate students very, very quickly. But I can't lead that charge without the brilliance of the people that work around me, because I always tell them I'm not that smart, but I know how to hire really, really smart people. And it's the execution part with the principals. If you have a plan with no execution, then you have nothing. The principals have to execute it. So we get into our predicted district grade. So in almost every category, we performed a little bit better. Learning gains can be a little dicey because they fluctuate from year to year. So we dropped a little bit in learning gains in math, and then our lowest 25 in reading and math, we dropped a little bit. But on the flip side of that, we moved a heck of a lot more kids into proficiency. So overall, we were plus 21 points. Now, if I applied this to last year, it'd put us in about the top 10 or 12 districts in the state. But my guess is about a third of the districts are going to perform a little bit better. So I'll give my bold prediction in just a moment of how I think we're going to do. But the most important thing is it's not even close. We're going to be an A-rated school district. And so I'll give it up to the people behind me. And that is so important. You know, I hate to put so much on a grade, but grades they impact property value. They impact businesses, you know, moving to your community. You know, people, this is what businesses want to know whenever they're going to relocate or they're going to locate their industry in your community. They're going to say, okay, where are my people going to live and where are their kids going to go to school? Those are the questions they ask. And I hope Ms. Aronson might agree with me. Hopefully that's pretty accurate. But there has to be confidence in the school district that the kids that are going to move with these families are going to get a high quality education. And I really believe we've turned the corner to where we are a first-class school district providing a high-quality education in every single one of our schools. And that's something that the board should be really, truly proud about because it's a direct reflection of your leadership. And it's another record-setting year. I always say, you know, it's hard to repeat as champion, but to coin a phrase again with Dr. Summer, sustainable excellence. You know, we want to make sure we're an A-rated school district year after year after year, and making sure that, you know, we're starting our run of high performance, and we have not ascended to where we can be. We have not reached our destination, and we still have blind spots, and we're going to continue to get better, but we're going to offer a first-class education to our kids. Here's our ranking over time. I keep going back to the past, but it's important when you look to the future to see where you've been. And there are 67 districts in the state of Florida. And you can see for so long, we have been in a bottom third. And you can really see in 2016, we really took off into our ascent. And I always say COVID knocked us down. You know, when you've got a lot of socioeconomic challenges, whenever you have basically the world shutting down, that impacts you know, districts with a lot of economic challenges a lot more than districts that are affluent. Because whenever you're locking your doors and staying home, and you've got parents that have literature-rich homes, and you know, kids are still getting some sort of an education, the more money you make, the more stable you are in your educational, basically educational future. You know, our students don't have that advantage. So we've had to catch them back up, and you can see from 2023 to 2025, we've started our ascent again, and we will be ranked higher than 22nd this year. It's just how high will we go? You know, our goal is to be in the top 15, top 10, top 5. We still have plenty of room. Mr. Gent always used to make the joke, what's the biggest room? It's the room for improvement. I gave me a shout out to him today. So we've gone from 778 points to 798. So, you know, my bet is we're going to be ranked anywhere between, you know, 12th and 18th. That would be my guess. But when will we know? That's another question. So by the end of this month, by a week from today, June 30th, the state, by law, has to release test scores. Now, we already know how we did, but we don't know how other districts did. Now, we know how the state did. So they have to release test scores for the entire state. Once test scores are dropped, they probably, my guess, will drop this week sometime. Next week, usually around the 4th of July, they drop school grades and district grades. So kind of get, you know, that's kind of the ballpark that you can expect when the week of the 4th of July, I would anticipate school and district grades dropping. They never tell us when they're going to drop. They just kind of release them. So we'll be ready to go at that time with our media releases, and then we can get into the nuts and bolts and comparing us to other districts in the state of Florida, notably, you know, counties to the north, south, east, and west that we're a little competitive with. So we'll see how it goes. So this picture was taken at our leadership summit. Some of the board members were able to attend. I can't tell you, leadership matters. And it doesn't matter just with our principals. We've got many of our district leaders, we've got directors here, we've got folks that are district leaders, cabinet level, we've got principals. The quality of the people that we select to go into leadership positions is critically important because they have to execute whatever plan we have. So Leadership matters. We would not be an A-rated school district without the leadership, and not just the people behind me, but the people that are not here, that are leading the charge from teaching and learning, student services, student assignment, maintenance, food service. I mean, everybody makes a difference of a child's experience when they enter one of our schools. And also how the school looks. Does it look inviting? Is it clean? I mean, all of those things paint a picture for our families. And that's why we encourage our families to come in. If you're making a decision about a school, come and take a look at one of our schools. Take a tour. Let the principal walk you around. It's a market economy, and we want to make sure that our families feel confident. Your child is your most precious commodity. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable sending your child to one of our schools. And once you get in the building, we know we've got you. You're going to stay because of the people that are in that building that make that special. But leadership matter, and the leaders matter. I started this with principals. Principals, we have to have effective principals to have an effective school district. Have to. That's a non-negotiable. And I can't tell you what amazing principals we have. And I'm going to leave with this. Leadership matters with our school board. We appreciate your input. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate, you talking to me, your trust and honesty with me. I have wonderful relationships with each of you that we built over time, but it's always amazing whenever I sit and I'll talk to Ms. Aronson, or I'll talk to Ms. Holly, or talk to Dr. Mills, or I'll talk to Ms. Richardson, and your viewpoints are just so different, where you're coming at life and how you see things. And I have to get that in here and work it around and shape it and try to create a vision that you're satisfied with and that you're happy with. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. The best thing I ever did 10 years ago or 11 years ago was come to St. Lucie Public Schools. It has changed my life in such a good way, because I've made lifelong relationships and friends, and I've also built relationships with board members that are going to last regardless of the office, because it's so important, the experiences that I've had of getting to know you, your experiences, and also implementing plans that I think are going to be effective, that will make you proud when you go out in the community, because I know you talk to constituents and you talk to people, and I want you to be proud of our product. It means a lot to me. So, another record-setting year, repeat. I also want to do, you notice the pose. I don't know. You might notice in one of our hallways upstairs, somebody crosses their arms a lot. And in every photo he takes, Dr. Summer crosses his arms. So we have a thing when we take a photo that we take a photo, but then we do the Dr. Summer photo. Everybody crossed their arms. Craig, did you notice that? Exactly. Perfect. So anyway, I want you to know we have a great system. We've got great schools. We've got great students. We've got great people. We got great parents. But also, we really enjoy what we do. And I hope that comes out with purpose, because people like coming to work here. It's a great place to work, and I know that's an award, but it really is. It really is a great place, and it is a destination district because of the culture that we built and that we sustained, and it continues to grow, and the best things are in front of us. So next month, whenever I come to you, I want you to reflect on these are my proposed goals for next year, and I'll give a quick reason, why I want to make these our system goals. First is the referendum. We have a November referendum on the ballot. Primarily it pays for safety and security of our students. We make sure that we have a resource officer in every single one of our schools, 2 in our high schools and some of our middle schools. We have a wonderful relationship with the sheriff, and we work very collaboratively together, and it's very important to us that we continue to have trained officers on our campuses, and many districts, due to budget cuts, are going to different options. My option is always going to be having trained deputies in our schools, and that is a commitment that our voters have made a few times now. That is really important. The second thing is teacher pay. Now, everybody needs a pay raise. I want to be clear about that. Everybody needs a pay raise. But our teachers are the ones that are working with the students. The referendum pays for additional dollars for our teachers, and that actually offloads our general budget so we can take care of our other employees that are non-teachers through other ways. But it's critically important to get that referendum passed. You're going to hear more about this as we get into election season. We do have a political action committee. I just want to remind board members, I can't go out and the school district can't advocate. They can only educate. So, what I tell our voters and the public is what it pays for, and it pays primarily making sure we have officers in our schools and additional pay for teachers. But it also provides mental health supports and other ancillary things with fine arts, but that's only 5%, very small percentage. But those are the two big things that it pays for, is police in our schools and also additional teacher pay. The second thing is focusing on the core. We have not truly ascended until we are exceeding the state in every core area of math, reading, science, and social studies. We have work still ahead of us to do, and that's really going to start in K2. We've started a lot of work there that I think are going to bear fruit in the coming years in grades 3, 4, 5. But we do have work still yet to be done in middle school algebra and geometry, and also in high school algebra and geometry. So we have low-hanging fruit that we can still tackle that I think are going to continue our ascent that is going to exceed the state rate. Third, as I'm calling it, and this is not something original, I stole this from another superintendent. I want to be very, very, very transparent, is we have to be an educational enterprise. As funding sources have changed, Florida Empowerment Scholarships right now, the state is funding about $4.5 to $5 billion of students that they've never funded before. Homeschool students, private school students, and none of these students that are taking advantage of these scholarships have any accountability. Public schools and charter schools are the only schools that are graded, that have graduation requirements, and that is actually something that we can celebrate, right? That we are accountable. If your child comes here, there is accountability. You're going to know how your child is performing. That's a good thing. But on the flip side of that is it's creating a huge budget burden on the state that is impacting funding for public schools. And we have to look at the reality of the situation. And I say the law of natural selection is adapt or perish. And we are going to adapt. And how are we adapting? Is we're looking at this as a market. We have a market there for homeschool families. There are homeschool families that want to take advantage, and they want to pay us so that their kid can go to one of those ACE classes or an AP class or an industry certification. Those are markets. We are now a provider for Florida Empowerment Scholarships, and we're going to provide opportunities for us to market a la carte classes. Bridget, please stand up. Bridget Hargenine. She is leading the work on that, and that could be a substantial funding source. If you think about it, you may homeschool your child, but they're interested in the arts. They're interested in drama. They're interested in marching band. These are markets for us, and we can't look at it as, just singular to public schools. We have to look at these as market opportunities to market our schools, our programs, that maybe the student is only on your campus for a few hours participating in these activities, but we can monetize that to the advantage of the district and provide a service to families that are homeschooling their children. The second thing is leasing. We've not taken a huge advantage. We have a lot of beautiful facilities, and we are beginning to lease out and heavily push leasing our facilities to different organizations. We've got beautiful auditoriums, we've got cafeterias, we've got large meeting places, but these are opportunities to rent or lease our facilities and provide additional revenue streams for the district. And the last is beginning adult community schools. That is another market that we have not yet explored, and that is creating evening opportunities for adult education. You saw that Amazon is shutting their doors for a few years. Those employees have to be repurposed, provided different employability skills, and maybe as more of our industries go to robotics and AI, we can provide a service with our local community to bring in those displaced employees, provide them different skills for different markets, and then put them out to where they can have some different employability skills that keep them in our community. So those are opportunities that we're going to provide a workshop on this for the board of what we've done, and we're going to be launching all of those things this coming year as we look for different revenue streams. The fourth is health insurance. Health insurance has become a cumbersome monster on the financials of the district, and not just the district, but our employees. Our insurance is slowly becoming unaffordable to our own employees. We have to look at a way that we can control those costs. Now, the Florida Educator Health Trust is a very fast-growing trust of a number of districts that the larger, if you think of Miami-Dade County with 55,000 employees, we have 5,500. They're able to get a lot more affordable insurance because of their sheer size. So with bigger numbers, less risk. So by joining the trust, we're joining a growing now, our numbers actually exceed Miami-Dade. That gives us buying power. We've just gone into the exploration phase of the Fleet Trust, and I hope that we are signing on the dotted line to go fully self-insured with Fleet by January of 2027. That is our goal. That also will allow us to hopefully control better rising health insurance costs. Can't promise anything, but that is the goal with the larger numbers. The other thing is, as we go into self-insured, exploring running our own clinics and providing some cost-saving measures to our employees to provide a better health insurance experience. And that is really important. That's why I want to make sure that that is one of my goals for next year, because if I go out and talk to our employees, the number one thing is always health insurance. Whenever we're hiring somebody from the outside, the number one barrier is going into our health insurance from somebody else's. And also from a district standpoint, the costs that we have from our portion continue to rise at an unsustainable rate, and we have to look to do something. So that is my fourth goal. And with that concludes my program, and I will take any questions or comments or just get out of the way.
I really don't have many questions because you basically have answered all of my questions, which is a good thing. But what I do, one of the things that I've always said is there's always room for improvement. And as you referred to that many times through your presentation, first of all, I want to say you did an excellent presentation for me. And, but you mentioned the need for improvement several times. But what I really saw was the improvement that we are making and how important that is and how powerful that is. And anything that you do is a process. And you've done this process along with the administration and the teachers and the system, the public school system, and have grown leaps and bounds within the process of getting to where we want to get to. One of the things that I want to definitely see is the closing the gap with the state averages. And I see us doing that at a really fast pace and processing through that and getting to that goal where we're performing either really, I would love to see above the state, not just with the state, but above the state.
Me
and that's
too.
the same thing I see going on out there. So I personally want to not just thank you with my words, but I'm going to stand and thank you with my actions, and I'm going to ask if the board would do that with me, because you have done a phenomenal job, and I want to celebrate that. There is no way we as a board could accomplish what we've accomplished without you doing the work. And the same thing with the superintendent. Oh my God, now I want all of us to stand and thank our superintendent.
Oh,
At least I
well.
will.
Well, to be fair, Dr. Mills, I reflect on the job I did for 7 years as the deputy, and you know, Dr. Wild is a much better deputy than I was. I'll tell you that. But it's the people. Mr. O'Leary's not here. He's on vacation. But Terrence, the job he's done, just getting these schools, you know, built, and his team, you know, with Matt and maintenance, and also building succession planning. Didn't mention also, and I should have shouted it out, but even transportation with Jacunti Prince has just done a marvelous job over time. I mean, when transportation is one of your higher rated for customer service, oh my God, somebody's working miracles there. So it takes so many people, to your point, Dr. Mills, to be successful. And, you know, I am unworthy of that. You know, they make all of us look so good, to your point. They really do. From me to the board, they just make us look so good.
You mentioned customer service and how important that is. Just the picking up the phone, our office, our workers in the front office that pick up the phone and conversate with our community, our parents, and whoever else calls. Just their voices make a difference. What people hear, their attitude that's behind it, the way they deal with them. Every single department deserves this standing ovation. And as you said earlier in your presentation, no matter how great your vision is, or how much you want this to be done, or I want that to be done, if it's not the people that do it, it cannot come to pass. So again, we celebrate everyone in this district and what has taken place within the last 16 years that I've been a board member. And I will shout it out from the rooftop. You have my full support, because I would be crazy not to, right? Because we are excelling and we are moving there. At the same time, I will always say there's room for improvement until we become the #1 school in the state of Florida. Then I'll be satisfied.
Agreed.
Thank you, Dr. Prince.
Dr. Prince, first of all, to all our principals, thank you so very much. Echoing what Dr. Mills just said, thank you so very much. Behind every great man, there is a greater woman, right? So you're the greater. So thank you so very much for everything that you do. And so I have a question, Dr. Prince, before I say anything else. In terms of the schools, the new school in Fort Pierce, are we going to have any more discussions about that going forward? Maybe at a workshop, or is it just
I'm sure we will. We'll be having. There's a whole lot of discussions to be had, but when it comes to the construction part and all that kind of stuff, all that is, I mean, all those decisions are kind of been made in the sense that it's the same model as Tradition Lakes, and just like we said with Legacy and Fort Pierce, Westwood, the schools are identical in every way, except for maybe some of the programs are going in them. You know?
That's where I was going, my questions as to the programs.
Yeah.
So if we are going to have further discussion, I will leave my questions, because I actually came with questions, but I'd leave them for another time.
Okay.
If we are going to have.
Oh yeah, we will.
Discussions. Okay, so I would like to say also to you, Dr. Prince, that yes, I did come with questions and receipts and everything here, but everything, or to Dr. Mills' point, you answered a lot of my questions without my asking, so I'm going to have to go and rewrite or whatever, check off some of the questions. So thank you so very much for making this
or taking it, leveling up. Can I say leveling up? Taking us to the district to another level. And it's again, it's that village that you talked about. It's that village. No one person can do it. We together, as a village, it's being done. But thank you for spearheading it. So thank you, everybody. Keep cool.
Yeah.
Hearing and seeing no other comments to be made, thank you profusely from all of us for everything you do every day, and I'm speaking to all of you when I say that. And may we always continue to lean on each other and to continue to help our children, our students reach the greatness that they so deserve. St. Lucie Public Schools is the place they can do that because of all of you. Thank you, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.
WQCS.org. This is 88.9 WQCS Fort Pierce.